The quiet afternoon shattered in a single, piercing instant when a little girl's raw, desperate scream sliced through the sunlight and echoed across the old town square. A sound so full of terror that every heartbeat around her seemed to stumble. Her tiny voice carried only one urgent truth as she ran barefoot across hot pavement, dust clinging to her knees and cheeks. Her eyes wide with a fear no child should ever hold, while the bright blue sky above looked almost cruel in its calm. People froze mid-step. Birds lifted from their wires, and the moment stretched thin as the world turned toward the source of her panic and the silent chaos it promised to reveal. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of strangers who refuse to look away, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Light of Kindness, because stories like this remind us that even the darkest moments can carry a spark of hope waiting to be seen. The little girl's name was Mireia, a soft-spoken child with curious hazel eyes and tangled chestnut hair that caught every ray of daylight like threads of copper. She lived with her mother, Rosalind, in a modest, weathered house at the edge of Brindlewood, a town that prided itself on being peaceful but hid its own quiet corners of neglect and struggle. Rosalind had come to Brindlewood years ago with nothing but a battered suitcase and a frightened child after a life she had barely escaped. And though she had tried to rebuild with honesty and hard work, the shadows of the past had a way of finding their way back. On that afternoon, under the clear blaze of the sun, those shadows had stepped into the open, and Mireia's scream had been her only shield. Across the street, outside a small diner with peeling paint and buzzing neon, a group of motorcyclists sat, gathered around their machines, their leather jackets worn from countless miles of road and weather. They were known in town simply as the Iron Serpents, a name that had traveled faster than their engines and stirred fear wherever it landed. Parents pulled children closer when they rolled through, shopkeepers stiffened and whispered, followed in their wake, yet none of that prepared Brindlewood for what was about to unfold. As the scream reached them, the men turned almost as one, their hardened faces shifting from idle detachment to alert concern, and something unspoken passed between them as they rose. Mireia was running toward the crowd without really seeing anyone, only feeling the urgency inside her chest as it burned and clawed for air. She knew her mother was in danger, and the world suddenly felt too big and too heartless to care. Behind her, near the narrow alley beside the pharmacy, two men loomed over Rosalind, their posture sharp with threat and entitlement, their intent clear even from a distance. Rosalind's back was pressed to the brick wall, her gaze determined but strained, the quiet dignity she carried crumbling under the weight of their intimidation. She had tried to reason, to remain calm, but fear had found its way into her trembling hands. When the Iron Serpents began to move, the town gasped in collective unease. Gideon Hale, the broad-shouldered leader with storm-gray eyes and a face cut by time and road scars, stepped forward first, followed closely by Calder Reeve and Jackson Maris, men who had been judged by their appearance more times than they could remember. Their boots struck the pavement with purpose as they crossed the square, engine still warm behind them, and the low murmur of onlookers rose like a warning wind. No one knew if they were approaching to worsen the situation or stop it, and that uncertainty painted the air with tension. The alley grew silent except for Mireia's sobbing breaths and the hushed shuffling of people who hovered at a distance. The two men confronting Rosalind twisted their attention toward the approaching bikers, their confidence wavering as Gideon's presence filled the narrow space. The sunlight filtered overhead, illuminating dust particles as if time itself had slowed to witness the moment. Gideon said nothing at first, but his stance spoke volumes, steady and unyielding, like a wall placed between danger and the vulnerable. Calder's eyes scanned Rosalind's condition, while Jackson took a subtle position that left no escape routes open for anyone with malicious intent. In the days that followed, Rosalind found strength she had long buried beneath layers of survival and sorrow. She visited the diner one afternoon, stepping into the bright daylight, with Mireia's small hand in hers, her heartbeat steady but determined. When she approached the Iron Serpents, there was no trembling in her voice, only gratitude and sincerity radiating from her presence. Though no formal words needed to be exchanged, the moment carried weight, symbolizing a bridge being built between two worlds that had always observed each other from a distance. Mireia smiled shyly at Gideon, her eyes no longer clouded by panic but reflecting a child's natural wonder. In return, he offered a gentle nod, a rare expression of warmth that hinted at softer stories hidden beneath his rugged exterior. For the town, this small scene under the afternoon sun became a quiet emblem of transformation, reminding everyone that courage sometimes wears leather jackets and rides on roaring wheels. Brindlewood began to change little by little, inspired by an act of kindness that had refused to bow to fear. Shopkeepers greeted the iron serpents with cautious smiles, children waved instead of hiding, and conversations shifted from shallow judgment to deeper understanding. Rosalind found renewed confidence, her resilience now fueled by the certainty that the world still carried decency, even in the most unexpected corners. Mireia walked to school with lighter steps, her laughter reclaiming the air that once trembled with her fear. As days flowed into weeks, the incident became more than just a memory. It became a lesson woven into the town's identity. People learned that those they once labeled as dangerous were capable of profound empathy, and that a small voice raised in fear could awaken compassion in hearts long misunderstood. The iron serpents never sought praise, yet their presence carried a quiet reminder that humanity often blooms where it is least expected. If this story has stirred your heart and reminded you of the power of empathy, take a moment now to show your support by engaging with this video, letting your kindness ripple outward, just like the courage that changed Brindlewood's fate. Special request: please share your thoughts and emotions about this story in the comments below and let us know how it touched your heart. In the gentle warmth of that unforgettable day, Brindlewood discovered that even the most unlikely figures could become its protectors, and that sometimes the loudest scream of fear can awaken the strongest echoes of hope, turning strangers into guardians and broken moments into stories that remind us why compassion still matters.